Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me today. In this video, I am going to be doing a Paris Eiffel Tower black and white with some red trees themed painting. It is part of a collaboration that I did with my friend and fellow YouTube creator, Cinnamon Cooney, the Art Sherpa. And she did her painting earlier today, and I am going to do mine now. They kind of coordinated. We did the same color scheme on both of ours so that you could hang them up together and they'd look great. I've got my husband here.
Hello, everybody.
Also known as Stickman. And Stickman goes to Paris today, so should be fun. So I did my initial painting on my Canson mixed media. Oh, no, this one's not my Canson one. Anyhow, on my sketchbook here, it's a mixed media paper sketchbook. So I've had a lot of questions about that. These are great for practice. And plus, you kind of keep them all together in one place. So I have a link to my things down in the description. I'm going to grab my paints here. All of the materials and everything that I'll be using today are listed down in the description. And I like to use foam plates because that way I can seal them in the plastic bags if I have a little bit of paint left over, and they'll stay good for about a week if I keep spraying them with water every now and then. So that's my little trick of the day. I'm going to set that aside. I've got a 12-inch by 16-inch canvas panel, but you can use whatever size canvas you want on this. I just like to use the canvas panels when I'm doing my videos because they lay flat and they're kind of easier to maneuver. But if I was doing this to hang up in my home, I'd probably be using like a gallery wrapped larger canvas. So to start out, I'm going to do our background. I've got a large, about 1-inch brush here. And I'm going to spray my canvas down with a little bit of water. This just helps the paint to flow a little bit. You could also use a glazing medium or blending medium or something like that mixed into your paints if you want to. For the background, we're going to do with the black and white theme. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of carbon black and pick up a little bit of white. It's really more white than black. And I'm just going to do a very kind of moody sky here. So it's going to be kind of gray around the edges, and then it'll get brighter as we go down to our horizon line, which will be about, okay, so if you mark 1/3 of your canvas there and there, our horizon line is going to be half of this 1/3. That makes sense. So that'll be a horizon line right there. So all of this up here is going to be sky. So you might want to do that on both sides just so that when you get your sky going here, you'll have your boundaries. And I am just working quickly and doing these kind of like X motions with my brush. You can do it more like Cinnamon did. She did a beautiful sky where she kind of did blended side to side. If you want them to match more, you could do both of the skies the same way and do more clouds. She did some really awesome clouds in hers. We're going to do a few clouds, but it'll be a little bit less detailed. So anyhow, I'm just kind of keeping my brush strokes sort of horizontal though. So now I'm picking up a little bit more white, and I'm going to lay in this middle area. The third, this is 1/3 right here and here. This 1/3 is where our Eiffel Tower is going to be. So I want some white up underneath him. So I want that section to have a little bit more of the lighter color. So just brush a few brush strokes in there. And this is going to be very sort of impressionist, sort of expressive. So I'm leaving lots of brush strokes showing in mine. You can pick up a little bit of the burnt umber if you want a little bit of a warmer gray. Put some of that in there. Just kind of working from one corner down so that I'm always working into my wet paint. If it starts to dry, just take a hairdryer and blow dry it completely, and then just keep on going. You can layer right over the top of this, no problem. But if it gets sticky, paints start to get sticky. Acrylic paints, when they dry, the molecules bind together and they will latch on to anything that is around them, which if you're using a brush means your brush will lift, that paint will just grab right onto your brush and it'll lift off the canvas. So if you've ever like done blending and you've had spots where all of a sudden the canvas is bare, that's what's happening. Your paint is starting to dry and it's grabbing onto the closest brush that it can, or surface it can find. If it's your canvas, that's great, but if it's your brush, it's not so bueno. So, or what would the word be in French? For good.
Bien.
I don't even know.
Bien.
Huh?
Good. Bien.
Bien. Okay. Not so bien. Bien. Oh, bien. Yeah. Okay. Well, I say bien, but it's bien. My French is atrocious. It's so bad. Like I took years of Latin and 2 years of Latin and 2 years of Spanish. So the pronunciations are so different from French, and I just have no clue. Sometimes when I butcher the French pronunciations all the time. Mark works for a French company, so he's kind of taken the Rosetta Stone thing and learned a little bit more than I have.
Yeah, a little bit. It's not too much more, though. You would think I would learn more by now, but I haven't.
I did get to go with him on a business trip, though. That was a pretty awesome trip, I have to say. I want to go back, but he used to go almost every year for a while there.
Yeah, it's been about 2-3 years since I've been there.
Yeah. I need some more scarves. I have a lot of good scarves from France. Okay, so as I get down to the horizon line here, I'm just going to add a little bit more white, and the lighter color on the horizon just sort of gives the illusion of depth. Don't know why, that's just how it kind of goes. So when you're doing your landscape, that's what I always go, a little bit lighter on the horizon line. There, I really like that warm brown in there. It's pretty. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to let this start to dry before I put my clouds in. So I'm going to, and I'm not really messing with this because this is all going to be our black trees. So I'll probably just go ahead and paint that in dark. For the foreground, I'm going straight black. You can add a little bit of brown if you want to warm it up, but I'm going, like I said before, if you measured your canvas and split it into 3 parts here, here, and here, going this way, then our horizon line is a half of this bottom third. So what's a half of a third? I don't even know what that gonna make you do math today. Didn't know you had to do math.
Half of a third. I don't know. Not thinking.
Too much thinking. This is art. This isn't math.
Exactly.
Didn't know there would be math today.
Different side of the brain, right?
That's right. It is. It's on the left side. It's not functioning right now. How's our chat doing?
Well, it's doing really good. And people are just saying hi and coming in. And got 155 watching right now.
Sweet. That's a great number for us.
Ash Bull 3 said it's 1/6, half of a third.
1/6. Oh, well, there. Yeah, thank you. Duh. Makes sense. It's been too long since I've done math. I used to be good at math, but okay. So I think that's pretty good. Let me go ahead. I guess I'm going to go ahead and put in my sky. That's bugging me that little area is white there. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in, even though I'm probably going to cover it up with other colors here. In a minute, we'll just go ahead and fill that in. Okay, I feel better now. Today I'm gonna do a little bit of perspective, but you can go as simple as you want with it. So I don't want you to get too bogged down in all of the details that I'm going to be showing you. I think that that's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the blow dryer really quick. And I'm sorry, I'll apologize in advance if it's loud. It's not super loud. Mark, you're going to have to talk now.
But hair dryers are my job.
He's not wanting to work. Listen to it. Hit it with the hairdryer. Because I know by now my paints are starting to dry. Yeah, there's something wrong with this hairdryer. Seriously wrong with it. There we go. Really quick. Sorry, this is the joy of live TV. I get to watch the paint dry. What? What'd you say? Oh. Yeah. That's true. I could have handed it off to you. Should have done that. I know. Oh well, it's not going to take long. This is pretty dry already. Okay, that's good enough. Whoop. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, cool, huh? This looks good already. I really like how moody it looks. It's very, very rainy day kind of feel. Oops, what was that? I'm hearing myself in your speakers there, honey.
No, you're not.
I'm not? Okay. All right, so I am going to mark out a third here, just visually, just trying to kind of figure out here. I'm going to do a center line right here and try to keep it straight. It looks like it's a little bit angled there. Just going to go all the way up. I think that that's pretty good. Excuse me. So this is going to be the center point for our perspective. So this line of trees down here is going to come off at an angle and come out to the corner of the canvas. So that'll be our first line of perspective. Then we'll leave a little bit as a space, probably about a finger's width or so, and then do our second line of perspective, which is going to come out this direction, like this. And you can make it as steep as you want. It just depends on how wide you want this. I might make it a little bit more like that. That'll be good. So this is the bottom of our trees, and this is the bushes on this side. This is the middle of our Eiffel Tower. Good so far? And then our trees are going to come from this spot right here and angle up, all the way up to the top. Leave a little space at the top of the canvas that they're going almost to the very top corner. You just want that line to be straight, so just make sure it's good. Okay, now I can use the chalk if I want to and mark out a few of my clouds. So the ones at the bottom are going to be a little smaller. These will go behind the Eiffel Tower, which will be in this area here. So I'm just going to mark out a few cloud shapes and go ahead and put those in right now while I'm thinking about it. I've got a Deerfoot stippler. This is my favorite brush to use for clouds, but if you've got any kind of stiff bristled brush that's round is probably good. Cinnamon used like a large round hog's hair brush for her clouds, and those worked great too. I don't happen to have one of those. I guess I need to get one. But I like to do my clouds with the paint just on the very corner of the Deerfoot stippler. The Deerfoot's at an angle. So at the sharpest point of the angle, I put a little bit of paint and then I just tap it off on my canvas here. So I don't have a whole lot of paint on there, and this whole back end is completely free from paint. That'll help me get that kind of ombre effect in my clouds that I want. So I'm going to put the brightest color at the very top and just scrub in. You want to keep this brush dry, so don't wet it down when you're doing this. So just like that. That's all I'm going to do for my clouds. I'm not putting a lot of detail in them. So I'll put one here, one in here. Just kind of setting it down and sort of running it in a circle in place almost. Like scumbling, I think it's called. Pick up a little bit more paint. That'll come right up to the top of our trees there. If you want, I use my finger sometimes if I get too much paint down at the bottom there. Just blend out the bottom edge. You just kind of want to be soft and fuzzy. So put your bright color at the top. And if you load your brush right, it does the work for you. You don't even really have to work at it. It just already is going to be lighter at the bottom. That's good. Let's do one more big one up here. I'm going to get a little bit more paint, so this one's going to be a little bit brighter. And I'll work painting. I'm not really tapping it. I'm just kind of setting it down and sort of moving it from side to side a little bit, and like sort of in circular motions, but not all the way, not turning my brush at all, because I want to keep that bright color at the very top. So then once you get your paint on there, you can kind of just scrape it side to side a little bit to kind of get some wispies off if you want it to look like the clouds are sort of drifting. Pretty easy. Okay, I think that's good. Got some rough hairs off there. That'll be good. Let's go ahead and draw in our Eiffel Tower now. And well, actually, before I do that, I think I'm going to put my buildings in and then I'll draw my Eiffel Tower because it's going to be on top of my buildings. So I'm going to use a credit card for that. I've taken just an old gift card and I've cut a piece off of it. And I don't know, it's probably a quarter of the card or so, a little bit less than an inch. And I'm going to use that to scrape my buildings in. So I'm going to use black for that. And a little bit of white. So maybe just on the corner I'm going to pick up a little bit of white, and there's not very much paint on there. Let me see if I can zoom in here for you. Ooh, that's okay. The color is weird. It's like looks blue. Oh well. So this is the tree line here. I'm going to go on top of that. I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm just going to go right on top of the tree line and start my first building right there. And that way when we put our trees in on top, the buildings will look like they're behind it. And pick up a little bit of white and go over that black paint. Now I want to go right down to the horizon line. This could be a little bit easier if you have a fluid acrylic. You might use that because they seem to scrape better than these heavy body acrylics for me. But I'm going to do another one there, a little shorter. Let's do another taller one here. I've just got a little bit of black and a little bit of white on there. I'm not really blending them so much as just kind of scraping them together, and they're sort of doing these kind of marbled look thing, which is what I'm trying to achieve. So I'm just going straight up and down with this. You could use a palette knife, I guess, if you have a palette knife and get a fan. I don't tend to use palette knives. I kind of gotten into this credit card thing and it works. This is going to be covered up by trees. I don't even know why I messed with that. Don't worry about your bottom edge. It's not going to matter. It's my OCD coming out, right? Okay, and I'm just sort of varying the height of my buildings. I don't want them too matchy-matchy, so maybe I'll make this one a little bit taller and do a smaller building in between underneath that one in white. Right here, like one setting right there, maybe. Make sure you go, oops, now I got too much paint. There we go. Okay, and then you can go back over and sort of highlight some of them if you want. You can get as fancy as you want with these. These are kind of really fun. Very simple. All right, that's all we're gonna do. Zoom back out. That color was so weird. I'm gonna have to adjust my color on that. All right, now we're gonna also, let me see, let me look at my cheat sheet here. Paint buildings in white and black, white's great. Paint bushes and trees in with black. Okay, so I'm doing it in order here. I made notes when I did this so that I would not. No, but I need to do the. I'm not going to listen to my notes. I'm going to do the Eiffel Tower now. Sorry.
Stephanie and Aunt Nancy have joined us.
Hey! Hi, guys. Very good. Those are my family. Peeps, my Aunt Nancy and I are very close. Even though we live far apart. I miss her. Okay, and Stephanie has got the cutest kids in the world. My cousin Stephanie. Her little kids are so cute. All right, so I've got my Eiffel Tower here. This is the bottom of it, so we're going to count that as part of our measurements here. So I'm going to take it and cut that line right in half, figure out where my half mark is, okay? And then right below that is going to be our small observation deck that's sort of in the middle of the Eiffel Tower. And then the larger one is sort of this cut in half, so it's right about here. So if you take this and make your line right in half there, that's the second observation deck area. And then we're going to do a line on top of that and make like this little kind of square, and another line, another box underneath. That's the bottom of our tower right there. So we're going to do our arch, and our arch is going to go off into the trees like that. All right, then our line, there's like a triangle shape at the top and a very small little one at the top here. I may not even be able to get it in my chalk. You could use a pencil or like a watercolor pencil if you want to for this. This is going to be very narrow at the top here, and I'm going to do my line straight down. And then as I get closer to my halfway mark, I'm going to start to angle it out like that. Then I'm going to angle it out and go all the way down to the bottom, and do the same thing on this side. Angle it out all the way down to the bottom, and just kind of try to get these two lines about equal distance apart. It's really not an exact science. Cinnamon said I was going to do mine better than hers, but actually not. I kind of eyeballed it too, so I tried to kind of figure out the measurements, but it's really kind of defies logic. There's not really an easy way of explaining it. So, and this is not supposed to be like a faithful rendition, you know, we're not like architecturally perfect here. I'm going to do another line on the inside of my arch here, all the way down. And then this line here is going to continue up and meet up with this. So this and this is going to be about the same width as that right there. So just like a V shape. And that's, I think, pretty good. All right, I'm going to paint that in before I do my trees. So I'm going to grab my, this is about I think a 1/2 inch maybe flat brush. It's a Robert Simmons No. 4 flat. It's one of my favorite flat brushes. It's got a little bit more stiffness than, it's a titanium line of their brushes. And these do have a lifetime warranty, like Cinnamon was saying in her video. It's like, that is pretty brave. But they do hold up. Here's my older one. I've worn it down so badly. That's the same brush. About 5 murals later. Look how much of it is missing at the top. So funny. Looks like a filbert now, the older one. But I don't throw out your old brushes. They're good for scruffy stuff or, you know, rough surfaces. They're perfect. So I'm gonna make a gray for the background of my Eiffel Tower. Kind of a light gray, just a little bit darker than our background for our clouds there. I'm just gonna fill it in maybe a little bit darker than that. Just want to be able to see it up against the skyline. And I'm gonna just do my line all the way down to start with. And we're gonna fill the whole thing in with gray. Just don't want it too dark because we're going to be putting black lines over the top. And you don't want it so dark that you can't see your lines. So. How you doing, hun?
Doing good, just trying to keep up with all the chat. It's going by pretty fast here.
Well, good. Oh, I know. It was crazy fast earlier today. I was watching Cinnamon's chat. I got in trouble, though. It kept blocking me if I kept chatting too much, I think. Because if you chat too often in one, you know, a space of a certain amount of time, it'll say you have to wait 30 seconds or something, and then it times you down to your next chat. You're sitting there waiting. So, yeah. It's being too chatty. So I'm just filling that in, and I'm going right over the top of my buildings all the way down to my horizon line. And I will have this traceable available on my Thankful Art page. So if you haven't followed me on Facebook there, you can request membership. It's a closed group, so we keep it private so people can share their artwork without having to worry about what their uncle's going to say about it. Or it's nobody sees it but the members. And you know, when you're beginning painting, it can be kind of daunting. You know, you're kind of learning, and sometimes it's try to make a lot of beginner paintings, and I try to do mine so that anybody, you know, who has never picked up a brush can do it. And you definitely don't have to draw. If you can't draw, don't let that stop you from painting. Grab a traceable and use that. And we'll teach you the techniques for the rest. And I do have a video that I just did that shows how to do your tracing. So my feather drawing video, it has a whole thing on how to trace your drawing onto your canvas. So if you've never seen how to do that, you can watch that video. Just trying to kind of watch and make sure that this width is the same as this width. And I don't know, for some reason this is looking kind of weird to me. I think I got these too close together up here. Oh well, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Just try to make sure that you're getting your tower sort of straight up and down. Make it a little bit wider right there. And bring out my observation deck. I'm going to pull it down this way. There we go. And then we'll do ours down here too, all the way across. It sticks out a little bit on the end here, on both sides. We did actually. We go to the Eiffel Tower on Valentine's Day? We were there for Valentine's Day when we visited. Was it Valentine's Day that we went to the Eiffel Tower? I think it was.
Yes, it was. Yep.
I thought so too. That was fun. We met a couple in line, I think, that had been there. Was it that earlier that day, or that had just gotten? Well, no, we met them on the boat later on that day because we did a tour, like a river tour thing, and they said that he had proposed to her at the top of the Eiffel Tower earlier that day. I thought that was sweet.
Yep, and then we saw the bride there in the plastic concourse.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was really fun. That was cool. They were getting married right there we walked all the way from our hotel that was right across the street from the Louvre, and we walked down the Champs-Elysees. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
And all the way to the Arc de Triomphe. And that was a long walk, but it was sure fun. That was awesome. And yeah, we passed the couple getting married on the way there in the park. Okay, I'm getting too fussy with this. Sorry. I do that. I get like into the art and I lose track of time. Okay, I gotta go a little faster here. Sorry. We're gonna run out of time. I'm gonna try to keep this to an hour today. So, okay, I'm gonna fill in this whole area here. I think that's good. All right, close enough. Let's leave that. Let me go ahead and do the observation deck at the top of this one. And a little triangle shape at the top of that. And then we'll let that dry while we do our bushes. So I'm going to grab my brush again here. And I'm grabbing black. And I might actually, now that I think about it, I think I'm going to switch to my smaller Deerfoot stippler. And I'm going to start out doing my bushes. These bushes are going to go right back here. Let's add a little bit of red to them since they're going to be red. Just making a nice dark red color. And I'm just going to go just above my horizon line, just a tiny bit above it, right there. And just start tapping in and follow this line right here all the way down. And every now and then I'm just kind of coming up and making a little bit of a bush shape. Kind of a rounded top. Just over the top a little bit. Right like that. Just deepening up that color and cleaning up the top line. Let's do it over here. This time we're going to start right in here. And it's going to go right up over the top of our Eiffel Tower, right? At this angle. So we're going to follow that line. The bottom line is going to come just above the horizon line, or right at the horizon line. So, actually I might do it at a little bit of an angle like this. Let's do it like these trees are going like that, maybe. Cut a little bit of that off there. There we go. So I'm going to do the small brush in these little areas here, and then I'm going to switch back over to my larger brush for the big area. I did use my small brush for the entire thing, so you can totally do it with the small brush. It just takes a little longer. I add a little bit more red to it so it's not quite so black. And I'm going to kind of round off the tops a little bit so that I'm sort of making some little imaginary tree shapes. We can kind of shape it out a little bit more when we put it in our tree trunks. I'm going to go all the way to the top there. fill in. I'm sure these trees, I took this from a couple of pictures that I found on the internet, and I'm sure these trees are not red, but I'm taking artistic liberty with this. What? I'm pretty sure they're not red. Pretty sure. They could be red in the fall. You never know. But well, I'm just going to fill that all in here with my stippling. It's taking a while today. Added a little bit of water to it to kind of help it flow a little bit easier, since this really doesn't matter. It's just pretty much solid red underneath here. You could even use a brush if you wanted to, and just use the stippling when you do your second layer. I will not tell anybody.
You broke 201 watching right now.
Awesome. That's awesome. You know, I don't know that I've ever broken 200 before in my live shows. Maybe way back in the Christmas time when I was doing more live shows. I kind of stopped doing live shows for a while, and it's taken me a while to get my numbers back up. So this is awesome. I love doing these collaborations with Cinnamon. She's got such a cool art community that follows her. We've done several of these collaborations now. This is probably our 4th, I think, collab since we started doing them. So, and we've got a group on Facebook. If you haven't joined it already, it's called Angelooney. So that's fun. And you can post stuff from both of our tutorials there and chat with us. We do stuff in there. Okay, that looks good. It looks like a big black mess right now, right? But it'll get there, trust me. So let's let that sit. Let's go ahead and scrape in some of our foregrounds. Yes, with our credit card again. And we're going to do this just like we did the buildings here. So this time I'm going to use a little bit more white. I'm going to use a little bit of gray and white. So I'm going to scrape into some of that color that I used for my Eiffel Tower and some white. And I'm going to just start at the top of our section here, and I'm just going to run. Let me get closer here. Zoom in. Color is going to look blue. I apologize. Not sure why it's doing that, but I'm just going to kind of lightly, I'm holding my scraper at an angle. It's not quite flat, but it's just, it's not, this would be perpendicular, so I'm coming down quite a bit past 45 degrees. And I'm just going to kind of lightly run it side to side like that. And I'm just letting some of that color scrape off of where I have it on there. As I get down to the bottom, I can kind of start pulling it a little bit places. This is going all the way under our trees too, so don't worry about your tree line. You're just going to kind of scrape it. I just want to keep my lines horizontal is all. So probably have to draw back in that chalk line. We'll lose it here when we're doing this. It just kind of gives it that rainy day effect. As we get closer to the bottom, I'm going to do a little bit longer scrapes so that these little patches of color are a little bit bigger. They'll look a little bit bigger as we get closer to us. And I'm getting a little bit more bright white on my scraper too as I get closer. Cool. Let's get underneath our trees here, some gray. Pick up a little bit of black. I don't want that to be super white under our trees. They'll be a little bit darker under there. I'm going to scrape in. kind of setting it on down and sort of scraping it down and then going side to side with it. Just making sure that I keep all of these lines horizontal. So this is kind of at a weird angle here. So just kind of ignore the angle and make sure that when you're setting it down, you're keeping your, okay, I gotta get out of close up. I can't show people. Okay. So just make sure that you're keeping the edge of your scraper in line with the edge of your canvas. So making sure that it's staying horizontal. So even though our tree line is angled like this, the tendency would be to start scraping in this direction and following that line, but that would not be what you want to do. So just every now and then kind of check your angles and make sure that you're staying straight to the edge of your canvas. Whoop. If you get an area where you get too much paint, you can always grab a little bit of your black and go back over it. So like right there where I got a little too much white, I'm just going to go back over it with my black a little bit. And scrape that in. And I think I'm going to put a few like lines in my paints with that color. Scrape side to side with my black a little bit. I think that's looking pretty good. You see, I might want it a little bit lighter under here, so I'm going to keep on scraping just a little bit more here. I have that black in there, so it's going to turn it gray. There we go. We're going to do our tree trunks right here, so those will be black. So we want it light enough that those will show up against the background. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, and our angle was out in this direction, so we'll just chalk that in lightly again. How are we doing for time? 2:44. Okay, so not too bad. So let's put in our red on our trees here. Decided to save the Eiffel Tower for last, and that way if I want to get super detailed with it, I can take my time with it. You can always do it as simple as you want. Clean out all of that black from my brush and just make sure that I dry it off really well. So now I'm going to pick up some red. This is crimson, Naphthol Crimson. If you don't have this color, you just kind of want like a true cherry red, like a blood red. That will work best. So cadmium red is a little bit on the orangey side of the scale. So if that's all you have, you could add a little bit of like quinacridone magenta or something like that to make it a little bit more on that crimson side. Zoom in a little bit better here. Is that looking good on the screen? It looks terrible on my computer.
It is very blue and it's zoomed in for sure.
Okay. Well, sorry. But is it very dark? It looks dark to me too.
No.
It's not too dark? Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm just lightly tapping over it and letting some of that background color show through with this crimson color. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of white. Don't want a lot of this because we don't want it to turn like super pink. So you could even add a little tiny bit of yellow to keep it from going all the way pink on you. And that'll make your lighter red a little bit more like a salmon color. A little more orangey. Okay, that is way too wet. Okay, so we're going to use that. This color is going to be very sparing. We're just using a very little bit of it to sort of define some of these bushes. And we don't have to go all the way down with it, but mainly these ones that are closer to us here. We'll just put some highlight on one side of them to say maybe the sun's coming from this direction and hitting the tops of them. the bottom area is going to stay dark. All right, that's good. So we got those done. Let's go ahead and clean that off my brush. Pick up my straight crimson again. And we'll tap in on our trees on this side here. Actually, I was going to show you how to do your perspective on these trees because we need to put in our tree trunk still. Let me go ahead and get a few of these in. And I'm not going all the way down to the bottom here. I'm leaving that bottom edge dark. I'm going to go ahead and keep adding in, and actually kind of like having this smaller brush for this part of it because it gives you a little bit more control. So if you have a smaller scruffy brush, anything in stiff bristles will work. And I'm just sort of tapping, loading it mostly on the tip of my brush so I can control the color a little bit better, and so I don't get like these perfectly round circles of color. But I'm sort of going back and forth randomly so that I don't want to have like a line of perfectly matched circles, because that's what this brush will tend to do. It'll kind of end up with these like circles. So you can kind of every now and then sort of scrub it like we did the clouds, and that'll kind of help it break up those shapes so we don't have like these perfectly circle, circle, circle repeated patterns. Okay, let me zoom out. Okay, it's already starting to kind of come together. Want the brightest part right at the top, so we can go over the top of our line a little bit with a little bit of that really bright red. And I don't have a straight line. You can kind of see I've kind of going in and out a little bit with it. How you doing on chat, honey?
Oh, good. I'm still just trying to keep up. There's a lot of people coming in, saying hi. Somebody asked about primary red. Not sure what that means.
Primary red's probably close. Yeah, primary red would probably be a similar color. It's just a true, you just want a true red, like a right down the middle kind of red.
So somebody asked on tips to simplify images so that they don't look cartoony.
Say what? What's the question?
Asked how to simplify images so they don't look too cartoony.
I just kind of, I tend to like to blur my edges, and that that's a nice, trick for making something a little bit more impressionist. But the cartoony line would be like if you did a hard line or outlined something really hard. So if you you can draw in something kind of whimsical, or it doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as you kind of blur those edges out and don't make it too crisp, that kind of moves it away from that cartoon look. Does that make sense? I hope that explained it. Well, you're not listening to me.
I'm listening.
Oh, okay.
It makes sense.
You're supposed to go, yes. You're supposed to act really interested. So, poor Mark. He's an engineer.
I'm listening to you live, and then I'm listening to you delayed on the video.
Oh, that's got to be confusing. Okay.
Okay, somebody said that they don't have the Naphthol red.
Naphthol.
Yeah. And could use primary.
Yeah, primary would be fine. If it's primary, some brands, the primary red is a little bit transparent. Depends on the brand you're using. So you might have to do 2 coats of it or something like that to get it to cover over the top of this red. Just depends. You know, you don't want to use a transparent red necessarily. If you have a transparent red, you can do it. You might just have to add just a teeny tiny bit of white or something, or another red that's an opaque red to help it cover over the top. Because boy, that would be so frustrating to try to do over the top of this black, this really dark red with a transparent red. It would not be fun. Okay, so I've got that in there now. Let's go ahead and talk about our perspective. So I think our horizon line was like right about here, right? And I mean, honestly, these angles don't matter that much. As long as they're all pointing to this center space, you're going to get your perspective okay. So this is like single point perspective. So what I'm going to do is start out and do my first tree trunk just wherever I want it. So I'll do like one right here, say. And then I'll do my second tree trunk right here. And I'll just kind of do a few kind of close together. It's really, I'm going to need it to be on the canvas. I'll get them a little bit closer together as I get farther down. Then when I get to where I can see this horizon line, so if I had like a piece of paper down here, I could have drawn out my horizon line all the way out here, and then I could have gotten a perfect perspective on these trees. So if you want to do that, like if you're really concerned about it being exactly perfect in a row, do that. But I'm just going to show you a quick trick to get these lines perfect down here. So here's my first one. I'm going to do my second line here, and they're both going to this mark here. This is our top of our tree line, right? So I'm going to take the halfway mark of that one right there, and I'm going to do a diagonal line down to this line. That's where my next tree goes. Find the halfway mark of that line, take from the top of this tree and do the diagonal. That's where this next tree goes. So just keep on doing that. Mark that halfway mark, do a straight up, these lines need to be straight up and down. So right there, like that. Okay, and then you go back in and just erase these in between lines here. That makes sense? So that's how you kind of can get that perfect perspective. This one is probably a little bit too close. It's probably farther back like this. Because that would be, yeah, that's probably about right. Okay, so that's good, I think. And let's go ahead and put in, I'm going to grab a number 2 round and black. Put in my tree trunks. I'm just going to start out really small and just do very, very fine lines. Straight up and down, try to keep them straight. I'm not really worrying about it being perfect. But it's going just right up underneath that tree line and down to this bottom line that we drew here. Added a little bit of water to my black to kind of keep it fluid, make it a little bit easier to use. Sometimes the chalk will kind of gum up your paint, so you may have to do your lines twice. And then at the bottom of the trees, I'm just going to kind of thicken them just a little bit. These ones that are closer to me. I'm going to try to kind of give them a little bit more detail since the rest of these are going off the canvas, so I won't have to worry about it. And then they'll get a little bit thicker as they come closer to us too. So these ones farther away will be super thin, and then as they get closer to us, we're going to get them thicker. The line will get wider. I feel like these are way too close together. Yeah, I'm going to make these farther apart. I'm going to ignore my lines here. So.
There was a question earlier of what color reds are opaque.
Cadmium red's opaque. The quinacridones are all transparent. So anything that says quinacridone is going to be transparent. Naphthol is an opaque color. You can usually find on, well, no, this says transparent, but I don't know. This is acting pretty opaque to me. So you can usually find on the paint bottles themselves, it says transparent or opaque. Let me get my chart here real quick. This is my chart of the reds. So pyrrole reds are opaque, cadmiums are opaque, the quinacridones are all transparent, and alizarin's transparent. And then I don't have primary red on here on this chart, but this is saying transparent. It is transparent if you wet it down, but you can see there it's pretty opaque. If you put it on thickly, it'll cover. So just because it says transparent doesn't mean that it won't cover if you put it on thickly enough. So let me see. I'll make these a little bit thicker right here, closer to me. All right, that's good. This is gonna get erased. I'm gonna use a damp rag and just lightly kind of rub off any chalk lines I don't want. Make sure that your black is dry before you do this though, so I'm not gonna do it all the way down. All right, that's good, I think. And I'm going to go in underneath my trees and do a little bit of gray. So I'm gonna mix up kind of a dark gray. It's close to black, but not quite. And I'm just gonna put some little lines in underneath my trees, sort of just right there where they meet the ground. And then I'm going to use this color over here. I'm going to turn this. I find that if I turn my canvas, that's why I don't like to use an easel either. If I turn my canvas to where like it's a natural writing style for me, so I hold my brush like I would a pen or pencil, and I turn my canvas so that I kind of have that natural angle that I would have if I was writing. I can get a better line sometimes. I'm just going to do a line right up underneath those trees there and grab some white just at the tip of my brush there. Streak some white in that too, just to kind of give that a little bit of a border definition right there. Okay, nothing too fancy. Right, and then I can kind of touch up a few areas if I want to with this white. While we've got this on our brush, we can do our little peoples. So I'm going to grab a little bit of black and let's pop a person right in here. I'm just going to do a dot for the head and a little bit of a straight line for the body. If it's not showing up, just grab a little bit of white and do it with some white. These are very like super minimal, like, so don't get too caught up in making these perfect. I'm gonna zoom in here so you can see better what I'm doing. Let's do our couple right here. We're gonna do one couple that's, if you look at the plane over here of your trees, so however big your people are compared to your trees, if you started at the same level here, just think, okay, well, they're probably not going to be quite as tall as the tree, right? So we're going to keep them about that tall there. So I'm just going to do a little dot for the head. Let's grab some white. Dot for the heads, make this one a little taller. Little body there for the woman. For the man, I might grab some black and do just like a triangle or like a rectangle shape right here, and then two thinner lines right here for his legs. I hope you can see this. It's kind of hard to
Yeah, it
see
is
on the.
kind of hard to see zoomed in, but
Let me make it. I'll make them white so you can see them better. Like that. Okay, then the girl, I'm going to give her a red dress. So I'm going to grab some of that red. And I'm going to put in just a couple brush strokes for the red dress. Keep it small. You don't want it. Remember, we're trying to kind of match it up to this tree line here. So, and then little black legs underneath. I think that's good. Very simple. I don't know. I'm not sure this is showing up very well. I'm trying to do it in different colors so you can see it. If it's not showing up, what you could do is scrape in some lighter color, and I think that that's what happened on my example one, is I had some lighter color underneath. Let's do that here. So I don't like that. What I'm going to do is grab a damp towel, wipe it right off. Since this undercolor was clean or dry, I can just wipe it right off. So I'm going to grab a little bit more white here in my scraper, and I'm just going to scrape a little spot for my couple to go that I want. A little bit more light color underneath here. Okay. And just do a little bit more underneath our trees over here so that it kind of matches up. So we don't want a big white blob in the middle of it with nothing around it matching. So just kind of scrape that in so that it looks like it fits. All right, now we've got a canvas for our person to go. Let's let that set though and dry before we go back to do those. So we'll just let that sit. Nice thing about acrylics is once they're still wet, you can just wipe them off. That's really great. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do my highlights on my trees. Now that I kind of know where my tree trunks are going, I can put my highlights in. So I'm going to pick up my crimson here. Pick up a little bit of yellow and a little bit of white. Just make my highlight color that kind of soft peachy red. And pick up a little bit more of the straight crimson on the back. And so I'm kind of double loading it with the light color at the tip and the crimson out on the bottom end of my brush. Let me zoom back out. All right, so I'm gonna start up at the top close to the Eiffel Tower there. Ooh, I'm at an hour. Shoot, I knew I wasn't going to be able to do this in an hour. It's too complicated. I always do this to myself. I think, yeah, I'll do it in an hour, and then it never happens. But okay, so let's do our trees here. Eiffel Tower does not take long. Trust me, it's really easy. And I'm just going to kind of do some light highlights along one side and try to kind of leave a little bit of space for some darkness in between my trees. So, whoops, just stuck my hand in that wet paint. So here's my tree here. Let's go ahead and do kind of my highlights in this general area. Leave a little bit of dark in between. Don't want to do like a straight line, so I'm kind of going back and forth a little bit. But these trees are kind of like tall and narrow, sort of. So that's good. Now here's where we can kind of edit the top of our trees too if we need to give them a little bit more shape. Add another layer of that crimson in the middle of them to really brighten them up. See how it's kind of just barely creating a little shadow in there. I'm trying to be subtle about it. I don't want it to be too matchy-matchy. So this one's going to be a nice big one. It's going to come all the way up there. So let's go ahead and add a little bit more red at the top of that guy. There. And some of our lighter color. just coming down. That's probably pretty bright, so I might go back over that with, if you get it too bright, you can always go back over it with your red to kind of tone it back down. It's like settle down. Tap that in. It's a lot of tapping. But hey, it's not a hard brush stroke to figure out. It's pretty easy. Just about anybody can do this. Even kids. Kids love these kind of projects. They love doing these trees when you're kind of tapping. They do. I've done these kind of trees several times with my kids' classes, and they always do a really good job with them. I'm going to turn it a little bit.
Okay, somebody asked if they don't have carbon black, will Mars black do?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mars and carbon are very similar. Carbon is just a little bit darker. It's a little bit like more of a, there's Mars and there's carbon. Carbon's got almost more of a gray. This is a little bit warmer maybe. And the ivory is more transparent and brownish. So, but yeah, they're all black. They're black is black. They'll work just fine, any of those. Just the carbon's just the one that I tend to use. I know Cinnamon uses Mars in a lot of hers. So we just, you know, you kind of get colors that you like and then you tend to stick with them. So I have Mars black. I just don't tend to reach for it when I grab a black. I usually grab my carbon black. All right. So I think we're good here. We're getting close to the end of our trees. Liking them. Yeah, looks good. Very stylized, kind of very simple. I think I'm going to put a little tiny bit of highlight in my tree trunks, and these tree trunks got a little crooked there. I don't know how that happened, but I was talking too much. So I'm going to mix up like a gray, and I'm just going to come along the side of my tree trunks here, maybe a little bit more white than that, and just do like a, I don't know, break up that black a little bit with a little bit of a tree line. And just dry brushing it, nothing super detailed. Let's go ahead and put in our lamp posts with our black. I'll put one in really tall right here. So I'm going to go almost to the top of my tree and come straight down. Hopefully I can do it straight down. Look at how crooked my tree trunk is right there. Oh, don't do it like I just did it. That's the joy of live TV. I'm just talking and we're painting crooked trees. We'll fix it. We'll just kind of pull it off to the side a little bit more right there. Okay. My paint is getting sticky. I might have to put out fresh paint here when I do my Eiffel Tower. In fact, I'm going to put out some golden fluid acrylics for this. They'll be a lot easier to work with our lining and stuff.
Product placement.
Product placement, yeah. Golden, give me a call. I'll hook you up. Just want to use your products enough. Okay, and then we can put in some little phantom tree trunks back in here if you want to kind of like just sort of imagine a few lines in way back. How did I get black all over my hand? Look at what it's doing. I have black all over my hand. No telling. I think when I opened that cap up, it had black paint in the tip. And okay, so that's good. Then I'm going to figure out my second one. I think I'll put it right in here somewhere. Here again, just try to keep it vertical. Then my next one, I'm going to put in, so if I split this one in half, which would be about right here, I took a line from that all the way down to my bottom, it would be about right here. So here's my next one. I'm coming down a little bit farther down from my tree trunks and just giving it like a little foot to sit on. going almost like if you did an imaginary line at the top here going up. That's where I'm ending these. So split this one in half down here. It's going to be right in here. Split this one in half, do my line here, right here. Okay, do the same thing here and one more right here. That's good. Simple. Don't want to get too detailed. You can be a little more careful with it if you want to. So I'm going to do like a V shape at the top there. This one is going to be, each one of these is going to be a little bit less showing, so just a little bit of line at the top of those ones. But these ones I'm going to do kind of two little lines here for our lights to go in. So curved lines and then kind of a straight line for my light bulbs to fit in. Try to clean off my hand real quick. I'm speeding this up. We are going to go long here. I promise you this is easy. It's just time consuming. That's all. It's not like a particularly difficult project. You've seen. It just takes a little bit of time to kind of figure it all out. Tap in all your trees and all that stuff.
Okay, so you have 203 likes so far, and
awesome.
People are complaining that I hadn't told you that yet. So.
Oh, good. 200. That's awesome. Okay, so I'll do my little dance with my fingers. Cinnamon did her happy dance with her. Do my happy dance with my fingers there, since that's all it's showing. Okay, I am a total mess. I'm supposed to go somewhere after this. It's gonna like be interesting trying to get this paint off my hand. All right, let's go ahead and put in our peoples back in here now that we've got a big white area for them to go. So I think I'm going to put them right in here and fill up this area. We'll go ahead and make them a little bit bigger since we've got a little more space now. So probably about right here. We'll just kind of fill in from just up above our horizon line here to about right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do the man first. I'm just going to do two kind of like lines side by side. I've got my number 2 round, so just a small round brush, and then very close together, a couple of lines straight down, then a dot for the head. Make him a little bit bigger. Actually, let's make him a little bit bigger. Widen him out just a little bit. There we go. That's better. Now for the girl, I'm going to go next to him, a little bit down below him. Do a smaller little section here for her body. Couple of legs. Very close together. Clean out my brush. Grab some red. And do from the bottom of her bodice there down just a little swish of skirt. Like that. Now grab some white, clean out that red. This is showing up a lot better. And grab a little bit more of that black, because I don't want it to be like straight white. So I've just picked up white at the tip, and then I pulled through so that one half has kind of got some black. And I'm just going to put a little highlight on the bodies and stuff, and maybe even kind of pretend like they've got arms holding each other here. Very simple. Okay, so let's do a couple more simple bodies.
Okay, well, your numbers are falling off, and I think it's because Stickman hasn't come out yet, and people are hoping that was Stickman that you're painting, but you know.
People are falling off? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, your numbers are falling behind because Stickman didn't come out.
Okay, here's Stickman. Stickman goes to France. Let's give him a scarf. Because, you know, when in France, you got to have a scarf. I have many French scarves. So he's getting a scarf. And we got to put black and white stripes on it because, you know, that's what you do. There we go. There's Stickman. All right, let's put in now with our lights here. We'll put in, grab some cadmium white, cadmium yellow, medium, and some white. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of, try to find some clean white there. Mostly cadmium yellow, and then I'll just scoop a little bit of the cad white or the titanium white on one side of it. I'm going to set the yellow side down and just do some little random circular type brush strokes. I'm not filling it in completely, just kind of setting my brush down and sort of letting it kind of do a little circle shapes. Get them smaller as they go down closer to the bottom. Now down here I'm just doing dots. Dot, dot, teeny tiny dots. There we go. Done.
Okay, people are asking for you to zoom in on the people so they can see them a little bit closer, or lift it up closer to the camera.
Okay, let's lift them closer. See, very simple. They look little blobs. I don't know what happened to his other arm. You can give him one if you want. All right, we're about good. I think let's go ahead and put in our details on our Eiffel Tower. I'm going to switch to my, let me see. You could do this two ways. If you do not like lines and you are, phobic about doing a straight line with a liner brush, you can grab a angle brush, small angle brush like a 1/4 inch angle, and use it instead of a liner brush. I'm going to take my damp towel now. Whoops, I had red on it. Oh well. Our sky's got some red in it now. And just wipe off all of my lines so that I have a clean spot to work in. I'm going to go ahead and wipe off my lines in my trees too. And I probably would go back in and might add in a second coat of black on some of these tree trunks just so that they really pop out. They feel like they're kind of disappearing a little bit. So, and then a little bit of a highlight on our lampposts too, with a little bit of light gray or white. Okay, good. So with the angle brush here, you can kind of draw a line a lot easier than you can with, I'm going to put in some fluid acrylics. The fluid acrylics will help a lot for this. When you're doing lining, you want a thinner paint. So I'm going to load it with black, and then I'm going to pick up a little bit of white just on the tip, just so that I have a little bit of a highlight. And I'm going to outline my Eiffel Tower. Just drag my brush, keep it flat against the canvas, and just pull it down like that. And I'm going to outline the outside of it all the way down. So if you want to use a liner brush, you can use a liner brush, but just don't press down too hard. The thing with using a flat brush like this is that you can get a thicker line very easily just by pressing down harder on it. So you kind of want to just skim it across the canvas. You don't want to press down while you're drawing your lines. And that's where the fluid acrylic helps, because it keeps that paint flowing a little bit more smoothly. So I'm going to do my little box shape and do my tower. And I'm going to do my observation decks outline. And this is where you can kind of correct if you kind of got outside of your lines, or you got a little bit wonky on your drawing or your thing. This is so sort of impressionist anyways. It doesn't have to be perfect, so you can kind of fix it at this point with this lining. Okay, so now I've got everything outlined, right? I'm going to start from the center here, and I'm going to make a line straight down the middle, as straight as I can do it, just like that, and stop right there. Okay, then I'm going to make another shape sort of like that, and then use my side of my brush and sort of just make some lines in my tower observation decks like that. I'm going to do the simple version, and then I'll show you kind of how to jazz it up if you want to make it a little bit more fancy. So then there's going to be another line that comes across here. It's about the same distance as that. See, I kind of messed up. I'm not going to even worry about that. I'm just going to go over it. By the time we get all our X's and all of this stuff in there, you're not even going to see any of that. So really just kind of don't sweat this part of it. Just sort of put in your lines as best you can. I'm going to do my outline of that curve. Then I'm going to split this down the middle again, but I'm not going to go all the way to the top. So I'm going to kind of split this line here down the middle and go all the way down, whoop, with it. Got it off there. There we go. Turn your canvas. It'll help if you do, I promise you. So I'm going to kind of try to split this down the middle, just like that. All right, so it makes sense. So we split it down the middle this way, then we split it again, kind of starting right where that curve starts. We're kind of split it again, and then continue that line all the way down the middle there. Continue this line down the middle there. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and switch to the liner brush just to show the difference. And because we're getting a little bit more detailed, it might be easier to do it. So now I'm going to do lines, oops, up at the top here. I'm going to do some little lines at the top of my observation deck up there. Then I'm just going to start doing some diagonal. We're going to make a plaid out of our Eiffel Tower. We've already gotten our vertical stripes, so we're doing some horizontal stripes, kind of about the same distance apart. Maybe use your observation deck width as a guide if you want. And just try to keep them kind of horizontal. Don't get them too much at an angle. So we'll just keep on going all the way down with our plaid stripes. Try to match those up if you want to, just to make it a little bit more even. Got it? It's going to look really weird until we get the final thing in here. Trust me, it's kind of a... These ones are a little bit farther apart, so kind of use that line as your base, and this really gets split into like 3 parts. So there's there and there for our bottom lines on this part. We're going to do some lines inside our little arch, just some little dots pulling down. Then our observation decks get split in half. Boom, boom, like that. And now this is going to get some stripes in it all the way across. And I'm not really being super careful about this. If you can see, it's kind of super messy. We want to keep it loose. Every now and then wash out your brush. All right, now I'm going to grab my black and pull it through the white. So I have a little bit of each color on my brush. Pull it through black and white, and I'm going to start doing my little crisscross. So I'm going to take, and everywhere that I have my center point here, I'm going to do an X through it, through my center points, all the way down. When you get to these points, you can kind of split it off if you want to. So start from the center and go like that on this side, and then do, really it's going to match up anyway, so it doesn't matter. Black, a little bit of white. The white just kind of helps give it a little bit of a highlight. It will stop us from having to do this twice. And then we're going to just go the opposite way with our crisscross. See? Instant Eiffel Tower. I know, super easy. Make a plaid and do some crisscrosses. You're done. Boom. Now, like I said, this is super more detailed. So, I mean, you could leave it at this stage. You could even just do crisscrosses in it, whatever you wanted to do. But I kind of like the extra detail. You know me, I've got to go for the detail. So. There you go. And some of these you can do some little X's if you want on the Eiffel observation deck. You can kind of do some crisscrosses on the bottom sections there. There's all kinds of little details in there. I kind of looked at some different paintings of Eiffel Towers, and I looked at different pictures of the Eiffel Tower, and I just tried to kind of simplify it as best I could. So this is what I came up with. Hope it works for you. But I'm going to do X's all the way across here, small ones. Large X's through here. Doing extra lines in there. This is where you can see where, you know, really all those undercoats, or if you made a little mistake or whatever, it all kind of gets hidden with all these crisscrosses and all that. So no big deal. I'm going to go back in with a little bit of white and just going to add some white highlights to a couple of these places. And now I'm going to grab a little bit of white and go up here into my observation deck and do some white dabs in between my sections. Put a little bit of red in there too, maybe a little bit of blue. Just whatever you want to do. I'm going to grab a little bit of red and put some red dabs in our observation deck area. Like that. Clean it out. Do a little pop of blue. Let's put some blue in some of our people. Let's give this guy a little bit of blue in his shirt, and maybe put some little blue windows in some of our buildings. Just little like rectangular shapes. And do some blue down in here. Just a few little blue dots and lines. We're almost done. Now at this point, it's just kind of up to you how much more you want to do on it. I grabbed some yellow, and I did a few random yellow dots on mine. Make sure your water is off your brush there when you clean it out. I just kind of added some random dots, like it was kind of lit up, maybe like it's maybe dusk and it's starting to need to be lit up. I think that's about done. Might add a little bit more white. Whoops, there we go, I did it again.
I'd like a zoom in on the tower for the color.
Okay. Zoom in with this camera, it'll be better. Okay, so it's very messy and not like not being super careful, just kind of having fun with it. Because we don't want like our Eiffel Tower to be sort of like all of a sudden everything is real impressionistic and then our Eiffel Tower is like super realistic. So I'm just kind of trying to keep that feel of the sort of impressionist thing going on. I'm going to grab a little bit of white and just put a little bit of white dabs in a couple of my lights too. And maybe a couple of my people just to brighten them up. So maybe my buildings, just however much detail you want to kind of add at this point, but I think we're about done. So thank you so much. This has been super fun. I was so excited when Cinnamon suggested that we do a Paris theme, because I've always wanted to kind of do an Eiffel Tower painting and I never have gotten around to it. So this gave me a great excuse to do one for you guys, and I so appreciate everybody that watched today. We had such good numbers. It was awesome. Thank you so much. Next week I will have a video for you. I won't have a live show on Saturday next week, but the following week I will. So be sure to check that out. But next week I will have a new video for you. I have a new video every Saturday, whether I do live or not. So thanks so much, everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye.